I'd like to take a little bit of time with this video to walk through the assessment structure for this class because it's not traditional, or at least it's not the type of assessment structure that I faced when I was going through college. It's going to be based on specifications or standards or mastery grading and also labor based grading. And I'd like to walk through how I've kind of put these two ideas together. So, first of all, assignments are going to only be graded as incomplete, complete, or mastery. And each of them will have a rubric. And what they basically correspond to is something that's at a mastery level will be at about a B plus or A minus level work. Something that's complete will be less than a B plus, but all the problems are attempted and a student obviously put in a good faith effort. Incomplete just means that it's not finished yet, that not all the problems were attempted. And I'm not going to have a point value for every single type of question or part of the rubric because the idea is to get away from uh, trying to make our assignments granular and based on small points that are lost for small errors, and instead look at kind of the overall understanding that a student has. And so when I'm grading your assignments, I'm looking for, are you able to show me what you understand about this topic in chemistry? And if you can show me that you understand this topic kind of okay with some gaps in it, then it'll be complete. And if you show me that you understand it really well and there aren't any gaps in your knowledge, then it'll be a mastery. And the rubrics will try to guide you with what that will mean for each assignment. Now, this grading structure will also include revisions. And so you'll be able to revise your work after you get feedback. So some assignments you'll have infinite attempts to do, like homework assignments. These are intended to just be practice. So please practice until you get it. And then assignments that will only have one revision or retake after you try it the first time, so you'll have a total of two attempts, will be labs and case studies and problem sets and our assignments about science communication. These are the areas where I'm really assessing your understanding of the material. And so I'll give you feedback and let you learn from it and try again, but there'll only be two iterations that you'll go through. In general, grades are going to be based on how many assignments you complete and then how many topics you can demonstrate mastery on, or how many assignments you can demonstrate mastery. And you can demonstrate mastery either the first time you turn it in or the second time, and that won't have an impact on your grade at all. So this means that you really have to actually prioritize completing and doing all the assignments and working through the kind of foundational practice level assignments before attempting anything that's considered an assessment. My hope is that also with this structure, it sets clear expectations of what mastery work is or A minus work at all times. And I'll try to be crystal clear in my rubrics. And if you ever have questions, because it's not crystal clear, just let me know and I'll give you more details. So how does this grading system compare to a grading system that's based on percentages? So typically we have points awarded for each assignment. Here, each assignment is just going to be graded incomplete, complete, and mastery. Typically, students only have one opportunity to complete each assignment and they just get a grade for it. And here you'll get multiple opportunities. Now, in a traditional system, you use feedback to then improve your performance on a later assessment, like a final exam, maybe. And here we're not going to have a final exam. Instead, you're going to use feedback to improve your performance on the current assessment rather than studying off of it later down the road and trying again. We'll do it all at once. Traditionally, I've had deadlines that are rigid, but we're going to have our deadlines be really flexible because we have these revision opportunities. Um, Typically, in a traditional grading system, students can do less work on some units and still get a passing grade. Here, students are going to need to attempt to learn most of the units covered in order to pass the class. So you're going to have to try all of this material that we are going to present. You don't have to master it all to pass the class, but you do need to at least try to learn all of the material. Now, normally your overall grade will be calculated as a percentage of points that are earned. And we often find ourselves in this situation where everyone's arguing over, well, what about an extra point here, an extra point there, which is not really fun for anybody. And in this grading structure, we're going to have overall grades just determined by what's been completed, kind of like a checklist. And then the amount of work a student is putting into really revising something to get it to a mastery level. Typically, in a traditional class, you can have a spectrum of grades. Not all of them are like this, but mine were 4.0, 3.9, 3.8. In this system, grades are going to be quantized. So 4.0, 3.5, 3.0. Now, if a student does everything they need to get to a 3.0, but only part of the work to get to a 4.0, or sorry, to a 3.5, I'll give them a grade in between the two. No matter what, I always give lots of feedback in my classes, or I strive to, so that won't change. So I'd like to walk through the types of assignments you're going to be graded on. First, we have participation assignments. We have about 6 of these, and we might add more as the quarter goes along. These are going to be mostly discussion assignments and Zoom meetings. There'll be 3 discussion assignments that are part of this first week of getting to know each other and setting goals for the class and developing class learning community. And there'll also be 3 meetings throughout the quarter that are required. We'll have a week 1 class meeting all together. And then we'll have a small group check-in in week 5. And in week 10, we'll do poster presentations and students will attend the presentations. In the week 5 and week 10 meetings, there'll be multiple opportunities to pick a meeting time that works with your schedule. For our first week meeting, you'll have the 1 meeting time, but if it doesn't work with your schedule, we'll set up a backup meeting. Then we have homework assignments. These are meant to be practice. These are skill building assignments. I'm not assessing you through these. I'm hoping you're learning the material better through them. And there's 2 types of assignments for each chapter, and they both need to be completed to be able to get a complete for the homework assignment for that chapter. There's a reflection and summary, and this is a 1-page worksheet that you're going to fill out that you reflect on what is the trickiest thing and in the chapter, and you condense the most important points into less than a page. The 1 page is kind of key here. The idea is to prioritize information. You're not going to write everything on it. You're just going to pull from your notes the things that you think are the most important, the things you would want to have with you on an exam if you got to take it into a standard like multiple choice exam. And then you'll practice problems. These will be through an online learning management system called Sapling. It's all right. But all of these have problems. And so you'll hit that mastery grade if you get an 85 out of 100. They're usually about 20 to 30 problems. They're intended to take about 2 hours to complete. Then we have labs and case studies. Each of these assignments are going to coordinate to a chapter within a unit, and including on top of that, one that's just an introductory safety assignment, and then a returning the lab kit assignment. So easy points in a way. So for these, they're all just going to be incomplete, complete, and mastery, like all of our assignments. And these will all count equally relative to one another, and they'll all have different requirements. Some of these are going to be more demonstrations with like handwritten lab notebook style assignments. Others might be a formal lab report, and others still will be a case study worksheet, something like that. They'll all have detailed instructions. They'll all have rubrics that come with them. And they're all just a deeper dive into a topic within a chapter to give you more experience. And then we have problem sets. You could call these exams like take-home exams. You could call them problem sets. I don't know. This is going to be the only assessment or only assignment that you need to do on your own. Everything else you can work in groups. But this one I'm going to use to understand your understanding of the material. And so I need you to do it individually, and then turn it in it'll be hard. So turn it in if you're not 100% sure it's perfect. That's okay. You have a second attempt. and I'll give you feedback, lots of it, and we can work on it together. So for problem sets, you can always talk to me about them, but not tutors and not your peers. And we'll have 3 of these. Each one will cover 2 chapters. The first will be part of chapter 10 and then part of chapter 15. The second will cover chapters 16 and 17. And the third will cover chapters 19 and 21. There's no final problem set. There's no final exam. These are just it. And the last type of assignment, I'm just kind of grouping together as science communication. We've got a couple of these. First, we're going to divide and conquer chapter 18, and everyone's going to take just a section and teach the class about what they learned from it in an infographic. The purpose of this is to kind of share the burden of learning a pretty dry chapter worth of material. And that's kind of detailed but not detailed enough, so you can go deep in one topic and then share what you learn with everybody else. And then it also gives you a lot of practice, and it'll give you an opportunity for feedback, both from me and maybe your peers, of how to organize information in an infographic. And these are the same skills we'll use to organize information in a poster. And it's like, how do we visually communicate scientific information? It's a skill that you need to learn and develop if you're going into the STEM fields. And so we're going to start here. And then this is going to build to a quarter-long project too, that will be an innovation in chemistry poster. Now, these will all be group projects, and so you will be supported in that way. And I'll give you lots of information about how to create a scientific poster, because that's a pretty big learning process itself. And so you'll be able to create a poster, a scientific poster on a topic that you're interested in of your choice, and then you'll also be presenting it. So these are all assignments that will go deep into a topic, but also really build your scientific communication skills. So our grading structure, being strange, is not going to track well in Canvas. So here's my summary of it, and then I'll show you how you can track your grade through the quarter. You're going to need to keep track of something that's been completed and something that's mastered. In Canvas, I will show that as zeros and ones, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But overall, this is what you're going to use to kind of guide you in reaching your grade goal. If you need a 4.0 in this class, it means you're going to do every single assignment, and you'll revise it until it's mastered. And it's going to take a lot more time than getting a 2.5 in the class. If you just need a 2.5 in the class, then you don't actually have to do all of the class assignments. You are only going to need to do 5 of the 6 homeworks. And if you start that need to be completed, let's go back. And 3 of them are going to need to be at a mastery level. So that means 2 of them can be at less than an 85%. And so the completes are what you've attempted. And the masteries are the ones that kind of hit that either rubric description of what mastery is, or for the homework, it's like 85%. And so you'll use this as a guide. I recommend setting a goal for a grade, making sure I'm hitting the number of complete and mastery assignments that I need. And then if you have room, you can always go and try for a higher grade. So let's just talk about what needs to be done to pass this class. You need a 2.0 to pass this class for most programs. To do that, you are going to need to participate in 4 of the 6 participation assignments. That means you could miss some meetings or you could miss some discussions. You'll need to complete 4 out of the 6 homeworks. That means you can skip 2 chapter homeworks altogether. 2 of those 4 are going to need to be at an 85% or better. For your lab and case studies, you need to complete 6 of the 8, so you can skip 2. And 4 of those need to be revised to a mastery level. So that means if you get it back and it's just complete, you talk to me, you work on it, and you revise it so that way it hits that A-B+ level. Of our problem sets that we have, and these again are my main assessment, you need to do 2. You can skip 1 of them. You don't have to master them, but you do have to attempt every single problem within them in good faith. And for our science communication assignments, you need to complete at least 1, and you need to complete it to a mastery level. So I'll be tracking everything in Canvas and inputting it as M for mastery, C for complete, or I for incomplete. It might show point values associated with it, and it's just the way that Canvas codes letter grades. So you'll see a 1 for mastery, zero point 0.5 for complete, and 0 for incomplete. Sometimes it auto-populates a number in the range instead, but you'll most likely just see 1, 0 0.5, and 0. This is not a reflection of the percentage of points you earned at all. It is just a reflection of the numeric value that Canvas needs to code a letter grade, and that is it. So to keep track of your grade, I've created an Excel spreadsheet that you can use in Google Sheets. You can use it in Office 365's Excel, and you can keep track of your assignments here. So as you earn a zero point 0.5 a complete, you would come in and put a 1 in the assignment list, the list for completed for that assignment. And if you get a 1 for that assignment, then you'll come in and put a 1 on mastery. So if you get a mastery the first time around, you'd have a 1 for complete and a 1 for mastery. And then I have a box that'll auto tally your number of complete and your number of mastery. And you'll also see in that list, or in that Excel sheet, a list of what this little grid will look like for each of the different grade values. So you can track your grade as you go. This is something that you can keep updated every week, or you can come to it and update it every 3 weeks just to know where you're at. So in general, if you set a goal and then you do the assignments to complete it and then try for a few more if you have extra time, it'll work really well with the grading structure. But we'll have some cases that just at the end of the quarter don't fit in my grading scheme. One of the most common cases is that someone does everything they need to do to reach one grade point level, but they don't quite do everything to get to the next. So in those cases, I just put their grade right in between. So let's say you do everything to get a 2.5 and some of the stuff to get to a 3.0, but not everything. I'll give you a grade of 2.8. Now, there are more complicated cases that have come up, of course. And in these cases, sometimes I'll have students that have, in one category, they've got like all of the assignments at mastery level, 4.0 level. But then in another category, everything's at about a 1.5 level. And in a different category, it's a 2.0. And so it's going to default to the lowest level. And I will default to the level closest to where your problem sets are, because that's my main assessment of your individual understanding. And from that assessment of where your problem sets are, then I can bump you up a little bit within reason. And so I am always looking for ways to give you a fair grade that as fair a grade as I can, and I'm not trying to lower your grade at all. I'm looking for opportunities to raise your grade up. In these more complicated cases, it usually goes best to develop a grade to submit through conversations with the student. So at the end of the quarter, around week 9, I'll give students a grade update. And at that time, I'll have either a survey or form you can fill out to help facilitate that conversation if we need to have it. If there is kind of a distribution of like complete and mastery assignments that doesn't fit well with the grading scheme, we'll have a talk about what needs to be done to get to a specific grade level, and what the grade is likely to be if those things don't happen. And you can give your input on what you think would be fair, and we can go back and forth. And that is the grading structure for the class. I recommend staying on top of revisions and getting those done as quickly as possible so you kind of know where you're at any point. One of the downsides of this is you don't have a rolling tally of a grade percentage. Oftentimes we use that to kind of have a sense of how well we're doing in a class. It usually doesn't actually reflect a student's progress in the class, especially for the first 4 or 5 weeks. But it's hard to let go of that kind of assurance. And so kind of keeping a to-do list is, and like checking off the assignments helps a lot. And if you ever just need to check in with me, you can say, hey, I think my grade is this. What do you think my grade is? I'll be like, oh, let me do a quick tally. I think your grade is here. And I think your progress towards your grade will be likely to be this. And so we can do these progress check-ins whenever you need to. All right, I'm looking forward to the quarter.